All right, welcome back. Today we're going to dig into something pretty unique. We're exploring how historical texts documented, well, nature's pharmacy, essentially. We've got excerpts here from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica, and we're zooming in on one substance called Cedron.
Yes, Cedron. And, the first thing that jumps out from these old sources is its common name. It's called rattlesnake bean.
Rattlesnake bean.
Yeah. The botanical name is Cimaruba ferruginea, but that common name, it immediately makes you think, doesn't it? Danger, remedy, all mixed up.
It really does. So the big question for us today is, what did practitioners back then actually believe about this plant? What were its uses, its standout features? Okay, let's unpack this. So diving into the Materia Medica text on Cedron, the source flags its most marked characteristic right away, its periodicity. And this isn't just like a minor detail, it really seems to define how they understood its use. This idea that effects or the symptoms it treated showed up at really regular clockwork intervals.
Exactly. And that emphasis on periodicity, it connects directly to where they found Cedron most useful. The text mentions tropical or in damp, warm, marshy countries.
Okay.
So think about the kinds of illnesses you'd get there, like malarial affections, particularly neuralgia, nerve pain. These often do have that recurring periodic nature. It shows, a really keen observation of patterns in illness.
Right, even without our modern understanding of, say, pathogens or biochemistry, they were seeing these cycles.
Absolutely. They were tracking these patterns very closely.
And it gets even more specific, doesn't it, about the type of person Cedron was supposedly best for. The text says individuals with a voluptuous disposition, excitable, nervous temperament.
Yeah, quite the description.
What does that suggest? Were they really trying to match the remedy to the person's whole constitution, not just the disease?
I think that's exactly it. It points towards a more holistic view. The patient's temperament, their overall nature, was seen as just as important as the physical complaint. So they weren't just treating, say, a fever, but the person experiencing the fever with all their individual traits, which, leads to some interesting questions about its other purported uses.
Like the snakebite thing.
Precisely. It's listed as an antidote for snake bites and stings of insects. And the instruction is incredibly specific. Tincture of pure bean scraped on wound.
Wow, just scraped right on.
Apparently so. It really makes you wonder, how did they determine that? Was it based on empirical trial and error, or maybe local indigenous knowledge passed down? We don't really know the specifics from this text alone.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to think about. And then from something that specific, that like emergency use, the text also mentions its use for mania.
Right, which is such a broad term.
It is. It's fascinating that they believed this one plant could tackle both a snakebite and a state like mania. It shows the wide scope they sometimes attributed to these natural remedies, sort of bridging the physical and the mental.
Definitely. A very different framework.
Okay, so if periodicity was the core idea, where did they see this playing out in the body? The text gets into some really vivid symptom details. Let's start with the head.
Okay.
It mentions things like pain from temple to temple across eyes. Pretty clear. And also, pain over whole right side of face coming on about 9 a.m. There's that timing again.
That clockwork precision.
And this one's memorable. Crazy feeling from pain across forehead. Worse, working on black.
Working on black. Like with ink or dark materials?
Maybe. You can almost picture someone, maybe a scribe or craftsman, getting this specific headache. It's such a specific detail.
It really is. And then moving to the eyes, it builds on that. We see severe pain in eyeball with radiating pains around eye, shooting into nose.
Ouch.
Yeah, sounds intense. Also, scalding lacrimation, so stinging tears. And again, supraorbital neuralgia periodic. That nerve pain above the eye coming and going regularly.
Right, hitting that periodicity note again. It also mentions iritis, choroiditis, which sound like more specific inflammatory eye conditions.
Yes, inflammation within the eye itself. So, quite a focus on head and eye pains, often periodic.
Then we shift to the extremities. It talks about lancinating pain in joints, worse, feet and hands. Lancinating meaning sharp, shooting pains. But it's the next bits that sound almost like little case notes. Sudden pain in ball of right thumb, extending up arm to shoulder.
So specific.
And pain in ball of right foot, extending to knee. Again, very localized starting points. And then, interestingly, it also lists shingles with radiating pain.
Which involves nerve pain, often quite severe.
Exactly, and even dropsy of knee joint, that's fluid buildup, swelling. The level of detail in these observations is quite something.
It is. And it all sort of comes together when you look at the fever symptoms described. They really create a whole picture. Get chilliness towards evening, then frontal headache extending into parietal region.
Ah, connecting the chill to the headache.
Right. And red eyes, heat with itching of eyes, tearing in limbs, and interestingly, numbness of limbs.
Numbness too.
Yeah. So it's not just heat or chills, it's this whole cluster of symptoms. The eye irritation, the limb sensations, the specific headache pattern. It builds a profile of the Cedron fever, you could say.
It really does feel like they're describing a complete state, not just isolated symptoms.
Precisely, a syndrome picture.
And finally, to give us context, the text mentions its relationship to other substances. It says antidote, lachesis, lachesis, another remedy, and for comparison, ars, China, arsenicum, and cinchona.
So they were thinking about how these remedies interacted, which ones might counteract Cedron, and which ones had similar symptom pictures for comparison. It shows a developing system of knowledge.
Right, and it gives the dose tincture to third attenuation, which gives us a practical clue about how it was prepared and used, likely in a very diluted form, typical for homeopathy.
Exactly.
So looking back at all this, what does it really tell us about medical practice back then?
Well, I think this deep dive into Cedron really underscores the incredibly detailed and sometimes, frankly, surprising observations within these historical materia medica.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just a list of plants. These texts give us a real window into how people understood disease, how they categorized human constitutions, and the healing potential they saw in the natural world around them. It represents this significant body of knowledge built up over time through observation, even if the framework they use seems quite different from ours today. It's a glimpse into another way of seeing health and illness.
It really is. And it leaves you with some big questions to chew on, doesn't it? Like, how do these really precise descriptions, the periodic symptoms, the specific applications like snake bites, how do they sit alongside our modern understanding of pharmacology, of plant chemistry?
Yeah, do they challenge it,
Right.
complement it?
Right. And maybe how do these older ways of trying to categorize and treat illness, even the ones that seem a bit strange to us now, how do they help us appreciate the whole long journey of medical discovery? It kind of highlights how knowledge is always evolving, always building on or reacting against what came before. Makes you think.